We do have a quorum present, and our first bill this morning is the higher education bill. And I'll probably announce it again, but we've communicated with and others that after we complete the higher education bill, we'll be taking a short recess, and the DFL members will be meeting at that point in 400 North. And I'm not sure if the Republicans will be meeting or not. If you do, just feel free to make the announcement. So Representative Bernardy, the higher education finance bill is before us, and we should approve the minutes, however. Representative Olson, minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move the minutes from April 10th.
Okay, that motion is before us. Any discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Representative Bernardy, do you have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion. I move the adoption of the Higher Education Finance and Policy Division Report for House File 2544.
Okay, the motion is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Representative Bernardy on the bill, you want to make a motion?
Thank you very much. I say that again. So
I move the bill.
yes, I move that House File 2544, as amended, be recommended to be placed on the general register.
Okay, and there are no amendments, so Representative Bernardy, would you care to give us an overview of the bill?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Carlson and members. Appreciate being here today. I present to you our Omnibus Higher Education Bill, which provides a fully funded tuition freeze at the University of Minnesota and the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. It also invests $15.4 million in new dollars into the state grant program, and also changes policy language, which also adds another $20 million for students to get access over the next biennium. Those increases, currently 80,000 students participate in the student grant program. Our numbers were told by the Office of Higher Education, 6,000 new students would participate in the next biennium in that with our changes. And for people going to a full-time to college at a public university would, or actually anywhere at colleges or universities, would get a $400 per year plus in their award for their state grant program. We also provide funding for student mental health services and food access at our Minnesota State campuses, some grants to do that, as well as new funding for open textbook development at Minnesota State to help address the rising costs of books. And then in the new funding for student loan debt counseling that would be available to all Minnesota students and graduates. We also have money in here for the Minnesota Teachers of Color and American Indian Act, which would help to get more teachers in the classroom. And then also it helps strengthen victims' rights, and we have money in a pilot program for blind and or visually impaired teacher training program. That gives you an overview of our proposal.
Okay, are there any questions of Representative Bernardy? Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the author of the bill, and feel free to defer to nonpartisan staff. I haven't noticed this before. It's nothing new, but there's money from the Healthcare Access Fund that's contained in the higher education budget. Can you or defer to staff on what that is and what the origins of that are?
Yes, I will
Representative Bernardy.
have our staff come down and explain that to the Ways and Means Committee.
Welcome back to the committee.
Chair and members for the tape, Ken Savary, nonpartisan fiscal staff. The question regarding the Healthcare Access Fund, yes, this appropriation has been there since the 90s. It has been an appropriation to the University of Minnesota for specific healthcare purposes.
Representative Brown.
Mr. Chairman, and do we know what those purposes are?
Mr. Chair and members, I was trying to access the files on my phone, but the email system is down. But I think perhaps the university might be able to add some comments if they're willing on that.
Is there anybody present from the university to answer that question?
Yes, there is.
And Mr. Chairman, for members who are looking, I'm looking at line 153 of the spreadsheet, and it appears it may be duplicated on line 171.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Brian Burnett. I'm the Senior Vice President for Finance and Operations at the University of Minnesota. The nonpartisan staff members, correct, this has been in the university's appropriation for quite some time, and its origins were to expand the number of physicians and the number of healthcare providers, particularly for greater Minnesota, and add slots to our medical school. So this was another funding source that your predecessors put in our appropriation with that source to add providers in the rural parts of Minnesota particularly. And as you may know, we have one of the larger medical schools in the United States in terms of the number of students and number of doctors we turn out each year. This is part of the funding, along with state tax support, to help us turn out the number of doctors we do for the state.
Representative Groff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so when you say it's used for those purposes, this pays for instructors, it pays for financial aid for students. What is the? Again, this is the first. I don't recall ever saying this before. I don't dispute. It's been there since the 90s, but it's new to me, and I'm curious.
Burnett.
Mr. Chairman and sir, the number of faculty is governed by accreditation. So whenever you add slots to the medical school to be able to turn out more physicians for the state, you have to have a certain ratio. And so this, along with state support, along with tuition, goes into a general operations or an O&M budget for the medical school to make sure we have the appropriate number of faculty to turn out trained physicians that are under an accredited program. So it would go in that total pot to help have the bandwidth and the number of faculty and support services to turn out physicians.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would just comment, I happen to have been on that committee for several years, and for several biennium, a big issue was what we could do to get more medical doctors and other healthcare professionals in some of our smaller communities in greater Minnesota, and this is one attempt. University of Minnesota Duluth, when it was created, that was a major part of their mission as well. And in addition to the funding, the university made attempts to, for example, recruit a lot of potential students from greater Minnesota, the feeling being that they perhaps would go back. And I remember in the 1970s when I would travel through parts of Minnesota. In fact, I used to teach in St. Charles, Minnesota, and I had the local doctor's son in class. And a couple of years later, after I left there, there was a sign up, doctor wanted. So either it was too much for that one doctor in town, or he had moved. But at any rate, it was a big issue in greater Minnesota, and I think, if I recall correctly, this funding was an attempt to address that.
Representative Carlson, that is still the case today, and the Duluth campus is a big provider of physicians for greater Minnesota to this day, and you're absolutely correct. This was an attempt to get more physicians in the greater Minnesota area.
Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to that point, I'm curious, since this program started, how many trained physicians have located out in greater Minnesota?
Mr. Bennett, do you have?
Representative Carlson, Representative Handel, I'm sorry, I don't have that data, but I'll get it for you. I think we've actually seen better coverage from physicians around the state with this program, the partnership with the legislature. We'll get you that data. We would say that about 70% of the practicing physicians in the state of Minnesota were trained at the University of Minnesota, which is one of the highest rates for a state school in the country. And if you think about the geographic spread of the state, that's pretty impressive. But we'll get you that data. We think we've got a good story to tell, and we're very appreciative of the legislature's support of it.
It's old information, but when I was referencing the University of Minnesota Duluth, at least years ago, they had information that the program was working well. I remember some of the testimony. It wasn't perfect, that some that they assumed might practice in greater Minnesota for other reasons, perhaps, that were personal. They ended up practicing in a larger community, but at least back then, overall, things were going quite well. Representative
Yeah,
Olson.
and thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm grateful we have a program like this because we continue to struggle in some locations finding physicians or having them locate out in rural Minnesota. So, yeah, if the testifier could get me that information, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then for Representative Bernardy, or if she wishes to defer to nonpartisan staff, the tuition freeze mechanism, can you elaborate how we have the authority to tell schools what they can charge for tuition or we cannot, or kind of explain how that arrangement works?
Thank you. For our state university, our state colleges and universities, we have the authority to do that as a legislature. And for the regents who govern our land grant institution, we are requesting that they do that. And we have worked with them on coming up with a budget that would freeze tuition at all of the University of Minnesota campuses across the state.
So, Mr. Chairman, so line 133 of the budget, is that all encompassing for all the state schools as well as the University of Minnesota?
Or Mr. Savary?
Mr. Chair and members, I believe Representative Garofalo is referring to line 133 of the larger three-page spreadsheet. That,
I can answer.
those dollars,
I can answer that. I mean, I can answer that. That would be,
Representative Bernardy.
that those dollars include the entire, that allows a tuition freeze. It's not just the tuition freeze, it includes all the budget, the dollars that go to the University of Minnesota that would include a tuition freeze across all of its campuses.
So, Mr. Chairman and Representative Bernardy, so where's the tuition freeze for the state colleges then? What line is that?
Okay, so they're probably up higher if I, wait just a second, what line is that on?
Savary, do you have-
On the second,
Representative Bernardy.
it would probably be on the second page, and then it goes in line 82, I believe. I got to look to see the numbers in front of us. And our House research person probably has the numbers at which line item it is. I'm not, okay, I've got it. But anyway, the change items, is that where it would tell them as,
yes,
Line
Mr. Chair and members, to clarify, line 98, so line 97 lists change items for Minnesota State, and then line 98 references a $65 million increase in fiscal year 20, and then a $93.4 million increase in fiscal year 21 for the Minnesota State trustees, and that is a campus investment. So those are dollars that are added to the overall operations and maintenance appropriation that exists for Minnesota State.
So, Mr. Chairman, and first of all, I want to make sure we're all working off the same spreadsheet. I'm looking at April 10th, 2019, 8:34 a.m. Are we all working off the same document?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman and members, so line 98 under the state colleges, the tuition freeze is called campus investments. And then line 133 is where we actually separate it out as tuition freeze for the University of Minnesota. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair and members, yes, that is correct. I will add that it's a stylistic difference between both the Min-State section of the bill and the University of Minnesota section of the bill. The University of Minnesota section of the bill, there's a rider within the O&M appropriation that specifies dollars that are meant to go for a specific tuition freeze. But in the Minnesota State section, because of the legislature's different relationship with the Minnesota State trustees in which they can instruct them to freeze tuition, there is no number specified in the bill for that specific purpose.
Okay. And so, Mr. Chairman, to
Representative
staff,
Garofalo.
is so the appropriation on line 133, is that 100% dedicated then to covering the cost of the tuition freeze?
Mr. Chair and members, yes, the bill specifies that those dollars are meant to be used to keep tuition flat.
And then, Mr. Chairman, and to
Representative Garofalo.
Mr. Chairman Bernardy or staff, the 159 for campus investments, is it correct in saying that that goes beyond, that's not just the tuition freeze, that it includes new spending for other areas?
Representative Garofalo, did you say 159 or?
Yeah, line 98, page 2 of the spreadsheet.
Okay.
The 159 million that's spent there, is that the cost of the tuition freeze, or are there other, is there spending involved in that beyond just tuition replacement?
Mr. Chair, members, the line 98 references an increase to the operations and maintenance appropriation. And I imagine the chair had conversations with Minnesota State regarding the amount of dollars it would be feasible to freeze tuition as well as cover inflationary costs related to staffing, fringe benefits, things of that nature. And so those dollars in that particular column represent an increase to operations and maintenance appropriations, which coincidentally would freeze tuition.
So, Mr. Chairman, Representative Bernardy, of that 159 million, how much of that is I'll use the term cost, but how much of that is the paying for a tuition freeze?
I do not have that breakout, but I know that there's 10,000 in that line item that goes to the next generation project that they're doing to have a computer system that is functional for the Minnesota State colleges. So it is totally inclusive, the 149,000 of that line, and 98 is for operations and maintenance to fund the Minnesota State system and freeze tuition.
So,
Representative Garofalo, and I assume Representative Bernardy, you meant million.
What's that? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, Chair, thank you.
Representative Garofalo.
yeah, who would have thought that Connie Bernardy would be slashing the education budget to $149,000? That's just, wow, it's,
Oh, sorry.
no, so
Pretty
that,
well within her target.
yeah, she would. And so, what's the way for us to find out how much of that, so we'll separate the 10 million out from the set aside within that. Of the 149 million, what's the best way for us to find out how much of that is paying for the tuition freeze? Do we have a representative from?
Sure.
We have someone from, Mr. Chair, we have someone from from Minnesota State coming down to help with that question.
Welcome, Ms. King, and this may be your last time before Ways and Means. I'm sure everybody's aware that, what is it, in June you retire?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, thank you for your service.
Thank you very
And
much.
Did you hear the question?
I did, thank you, yes. I don't have the current spreadsheet in front of me, but to the question of the way the bill is constructed, as the chair introduced it, the cost to us of the tuition freeze is $149 million. The 159 that is showing, that I heard cited, includes the $10 million added for our ERP replacement project. For the tape, Laura King, Vice Chancellor, Minnesota State Colleges and Universities.
And so, Mr. Chairman,
Garofalo.
into the test, so the full 149 million is offsetting any increase in tuition?
Mr. Chairperson, yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so for the state colleges, that number is 149. And for the University of Minnesota, that number is 114. Yeah, line 133, so it's 114 million for the University of Minnesota for the tuition freeze. And I'm using the term cost, Mr. Chairman, but I think we have to pay for these bills as they go forward. So the 114 million for the tuition freeze for the University of Minnesota, 149 for all the state colleges in our state. How does that compare in terms of the ratio of enrollment? So we take a look at this right here. We see a total of $263 million. Roughly 114 million of that goes to the University of Minnesota. Just doing a round percentage of that, I think that works out to about, what, 40%? 40% of the overall budget of that total amount. Does state college enrollment match up to 20% more than the University of Minnesota's enrollment?
Mr. Chair, Representative, and I'll defer to the university. I think the university enrollment's about 65,000. The state college and university enrollment is about 240,000.
And so, Mr. Chairman,
No, Garofalo.
and so even though the state colleges are about 4 times the student population, the cost of a tuition freeze is only 20% more.
Mr.
Is that
Chair,
correct?
Representative, the tuition rates are different between us and the University of Minnesota. And if there's interest in a more extended analytical framing of this, we could certainly work with the university to do that.
And Mr. Chairman, and of course, we're talking about obviously very different tuition rates for locations, but as it's a dollars and cents perspective, that even though state college enrollment is roughly 4 times as much, the cost to freeze tuition at the University of Minnesota versus state colleges is only 20%. So we get a lot more bang for the buck freezing tuition at state colleges than we do at the University of Minnesota. And I'm aware that there's different tuition rates, but I don't believe the University of Minnesota has a tuition schedule that's 4 times that on average of state colleges. So that's why if the 149 and the 114 are accurate numbers, I'm trying to figure out how there can be such a huge discrepancy in the cost of freezing tuition.
Okay. Ms. King has said that they can do a little work on this to help answer Representative Garofalo's question.
Okay. I mean, Mr. Chairman, am I right, though, that seems like a very large discrepancy given the student population sizes? Or are the state colleges having fewer full-time students, so there are more part-time students, so there are fewer credit loads? That's a very large discrepancy. And I'm not implying that the university doesn't need this money to freeze tuition or that somehow the state colleges should be asking for more money. That seems like a very large discrepancy between student count and tuition freeze availability.
Mr. Chair, Representative, this is worthy of more than I can give you on the spot here. There is a lot about Minnesota State colleges and universities that's different from the University of Minnesota. I think the state is well organized in the way they've established different kinds of colleges and universities for different parts of the service to the state. So there's a lot about us that contrasts quite a bit. And I would prefer to do a little work here with the university staff rather than offering a general opinion on the spot.
That's fair. Mr. Chairman, and thank you, I appreciate that. So maybe it might be helpful for members of the committee, either from nonpartisan staff or from university sources, to provide the 3 following pieces of information. Number 1 is, what is the total amount of tuition revenue that goes to state colleges? And what is the total amount of tuition revenue that goes to University of Minnesota schools? Included in that tuition revenue, I assume, would be financial aid payments. So that would be considered part of the tuition number. So I think that'd be a good piece of information to have to separate. We have the student count information, but also this total tuition, total revenue that's coming in via students on the tuition side for both those. The second is to confirm the attendance of each of those institutions. And then third and finally is to compare the 114 and the 149, how those dollars are actually being allocated to the university, to those institutions. You know, how are those dollars being spent? What are they being used for? I know in the spreadsheet they show up as tuition freeze or as campus investments. I think it would be good for members of the committee to know beyond those descriptors of how those descriptions, not scriptures, descriptions of how those dollars are being spent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And just a comment, you know, there are times when we've had discussions like this, even within Minnesota State system. I remember I used to ask questions about why the funding level was different between one state university and another. And when we looked at that, it narrowed down, if you will, to the types of programs that were on a given campus. You know, one campus might have an engineering school and another one not. And for example, engineering is quite expensive to be offering that. And without getting into it, I think Ms. King said she would follow up with some of that. But it is a complex area when you begin to dig into it. Our earlier conversations were more often than not comparing the funding per student at times when it would be before the committee. And then you had the internal reallocation, and that's where sometimes one university would say, well, why do we get less per student than the other state university? And when we would ask the campus leadership about it, then it often boiled down to program.
Mr.
But
Chairman.
at any rate, we could spend a lot of time on that. If they can get back to you, that would be great.
No, Mr. Chairman, there are other members of the committee who have spoken about this in previous sessions that tuition is kind of an easy way to raise revenue for the university to raise revenue and spend generally as it sees fit. And we're not even talking about student fees. So I just know other people have highlighted in the past that there seems to have been a disproportional growth in the amount of central administration compared to student populations in the state, and I think those concerns were valid, and just wanted to, again, I'd just like to see the dollar amounts, the three questions I asked earlier, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, who is responsible for getting those answers to those three questions? Do we delegate that to nonpartisan staff, or do we just rely on Mr. Mark?
I was
Mr.
interpreting that Ms. King said that she would work with the university
Correct,
to get back to us. Is that?
correct. And we'll work with the chair staff, and we'll
That-
provide
is
an
that
answer back to
satisfying?
you, Representative Carlson.
Yes, but it goes beyond the University of Minnesota, it would be the state universities as well.
Well, she's here representing the Minnesota State, and she's their Director of Finance. We've got Mr. Bennett in the audience that I think has heard the questions, and he said yes, so I assume there will be some conversation between the two systems, and they'll be getting back.
Yes.
If that satisfies, it's really in the purview of the Chair of the Higher Ed Committee, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you,
She's
Mr.
shaking her
Chair.
head yes, that would
They
be
they say they can
Yeah,
do that and
well.
get back to us. That would be,
Certainly.
Just a quick comment. There was a fellow that was a longtime member of our legislative staff that later became Vice President of Finance at the University of Minnesota. And when we would have discussions about tuition, Mr. Fitzenreiter would say, you really should talk about the cost of attendance, tuition being just one component for food for thought. And freezing tuition is a very important goal. But you touched, Representative Garofalo, a little bit on when you talked about fees and so on. All of that would go into the total cost of attendance, which is a very different question sometimes than just tuition. Right, Dr. King?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, there is a relationship, but it's larger than just the tuition question.
And the financial aid, by the way, looks at the cost of attendance when those grants are being given out. That's why that discussion is important. Well, any further question? Oh, Representative Nelson, you've been waiting quite a while. Okay. Representative Pelowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to try to clarify this just a little bit. We're talking about undergraduate tuition, and there are two ways to freeze tuition. One is you assume that the percentages that are presented to you when you review the budgets of the universities are accurate, and that those numbers indeed do freeze tuition and the students don't bear the burden of an increased cost, and that is how you apply whatever your target is to freeze tuition. And that's what we did in 2013. We froze tuition at the numbers after reviewing those numbers exhaustively in 14 hearings without having a bill in front of us, just budget accounts. And then we did freeze tuition, and there was no increased cost to the student, and there was no increased student debt. Subsequent legislatures have done this. They've frozen tuition and not paid for it. You can do it that way. If you do it that way, then there are some interesting cuts and shifts that occur within the two systems, particularly within the Min-State system. And I'm not going to review that here, but it was an interesting way of balancing budgets if you do not pay the price of tuition increases. So we're looking at undergraduate. We're looking at two methods, and this method says we're going to freeze tuition and pay for it, and we're not going to increase student debt. And this is the other big issue. The last time I checked, we were 4th and 5th in the nation in the amount of debt students carry in Minnesota and in the number of students that carry debt. And I would argue that this is the 5th big fiscal crisis of this country. Student debt now exceeds credit card debt across the country. There are students that graduate that can't afford to have a family, can't afford to have a house, can't afford to have a car simply because they're paying student debt. So I would hope that this bill does what we did in 2013. It pays and freezes tuition so there is no increased student debt in the undergraduate programs at the University of Minnesota and at Min-State. That's what the bill does.
Okay, we have Representative Lillie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chair Bernardy, for bringing this forward. I think I was going to talk about some of what Representative Pelowski, and actually congratulate him on when he froze it. And this is a huge thing for Minnesota, and I think it's something that we all can go home and say, because it's real. I mean, the students are bearing this, like Representative Pelowski just said, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But there is some kind of neat innovative things that are in this bill, and like the open book program is in there, trying to buy down some of these other costs for students. And there's a program in here that you're doing, which I think is really neat for, many of our students struggle with food insecurity. And just, so you've kind of stepped up. That's unusual, that we would do that, I think. But I think it's neat that you're addressing that. And then you've added in some mental health and then helping students in different ethnic group or not minority groups, and helping them become successful. And a lot of those programs are pretty neat. And then earlier we heard people talk about, students all over the state, and you've got a lot of great stuff in there and that. So I think this is a very good bill, and I'm pretty excited about it.
And we have Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Bernardy, what has happened with enrollment numbers in each of these two organizations? What's the trend been? What's percentages, increases, decreases, or flat?
I'm going to ask both of the institutions to come down. I could speak for them, but I want them to answer that question for you. And as they come down, I wanted to make, Representative Pelowski made that very clear. This is for 2- and 4-year universities and colleges, public colleges across the state of Minnesota, for the tuition freeze.
Mr. Burnett, do you want to go first?
Chair Carlson and members of the committee.
Bennett earlier, Burnett.
On behalf of the University of Minnesota, our enrollments are fairly steady. The Twin Cities campus has been steady for quite some time. We've been down a little bit in Crookston and Morris, and a little bit down in Duluth, and Rochester continues to grow as our youngest campus. But overall, we're around 67,000 students across our 5 campuses. That's holding pretty steady. There's some dips in graduate, some ups in undergraduate, but we have a lot of graduate and professional programs on top of the undergrad program at the University of Minnesota as the state's land-grant and research university. So we're fairly steady in enrollment, with some exceptions in our greater Minnesota campuses.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what was is it 67,000 today? What was the enrollment 5 years ago?
You can give me 1 second. I believe it was close to $67,000.
I'm not ready either.
Based on the data that I have with me, it's roughly the same within 1,000 students of where it was 5 years ago.
Is that undergrad, or is there a breakdown?
Well, I'd have to get you all that data. Again, we have 5 campuses, undergrad and grad at the Twin Cities.
Can you get that information to us? Broken out by graduate and undergraduate? Can we have the amounts of each of those for, say, each of the last 10 years? And then this year, and the projections over each of the next 4 years that you might have? I'm sure you do enrollment projections as well. How about MnSCU?
So just to be clear,
University.
so 10 years back and 4 years ahead, is that what I understand?
Mr. Chair, what I would ask for is each individual year over the last 10 years.
Okay.
Every single year over the last 10 years, what has the enrollment been? What is it this year? What is it projected to be each of the next 4 years?
And just briefly, generally, it'll be steady. The university isn't planning any big change or any big contraction, but I will tell you, it's not going to vary much.
The paper will reflect that. I
We'll
look
get
forward
that for
to
you.
it. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, MnSCU?
Minnesota State, you requested as well.
Minnesota State. I stand corrected. I remember that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I didn't hear what you had said.
I said MnSCU. I was
Well, they
operating.
changed, they,
That was my
they've
point.
struggled for about 25 years.
That was
on
my
what to
point.
call
I
it.
struggled too, but now I'm done struggling. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I'll editorial a bit. I think when they went with Minnesota State, they added the confusion because you had like Minnesota State Mankato and one thing and another. And Personally, I think they should have stayed with Minskew. Everybody understood that, but that's just my editorial for the day. And in fact, I asked the president, Cato, I said about that change, and he said, well, it's still MSU. At any rate, my editorial for the day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I don't think you were responsible for the name change, were you?
I was not.
Okay.
Yes. I was a party to it, and I support it, and I think it's worked well. But I appreciate the fact that it was a long time when we were known otherwise. To the question of our enrollment in fiscal 19, we're projecting 126,000 full-year equivalents, which translates to about 240 individuals, because our students are substantially part-time. That contrasts with 2009. So 10 years prior, we were at 143,900 full-year equivalents, so a decrease of about 20,000 full-year equivalents from the height of the recession to today. We do not do 4-year forward projections. We have 2-year forward projections, and 2 years out in fiscal 21, we're currently projecting 126,000 full-year equivalents.
Representative Fiscal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. King, could you provide the same information that the University of Minnesota is going to provide, kind of those same numbers?
I can provide 10 years past and 2 years forward. We don't have 4 years forward.
We'll take whatever we can get, and both graduate and undergraduate.
Certainly.
And then also, and I would request as both of you and the university, could you get resident and non-resident numbers in there as well?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Because we are largely not charging a non-resident tuition rate. I'm not sure what kind of status our non-resident data is, but I'll look into it.
Okay, and I assume the University of Minnesota can provide the same. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I hope we can maybe, between that data and the nonpartisan staff, we could actually have over a similar trend, the amount of state taxpayer money that has been spent per student as well. That would be, I would think, easy to compute once we get those numbers from the university. And actually, I would expect maybe the committee had those numbers in their deliberations as they work through this budget. But if they would, Madam Chair Bernardy, if you have those, or if staff can develop those along with the two university systems, I think that would be very helpful and instructive for us. Chair Bernardy, as you put this budget together, it looks like for operating and maintenance for the University of Minnesota, it's about a 9% increase projected over the biennium of the amount of the people's money that we're going to contribute to the Min State system, and then U of M was, or to the U of M, and then Min State was about a 12% increase, 11.7 projected increase in their operations and maintenance. What amount has each of these university systems contributed in the form of reductions in staff or other reductions in costs in order to help contribute to this tuition freeze? Or are we simply taking more and more taxpayer money to pay this down, to pay the tuition freeze?
Mr. Chair, I know the University of Minnesota has $33 million planned in their reallocations to be able to participate in this tuition freeze. That's what I understand. I do not know from the Minnesota State University. I do know that Minnesota State statute has the state will cover 2/3 of a student's public education in the state, and 1/3 would be covered by the student and 2/3 would be covered by the state. The last numbers I got from the office of, you can help me with this, Mr. Chair, the Midwest
Higher education.
Compact, right. We just were at a meeting, it was a bipartisan meeting with that group, and they showed that it's now in Minnesota, instead of being the 33-66 split in Minnesota, now students are covering over 50% of their college education, and the state is, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's in the it's in the 40% now. Just wanted to share that with you.
So Mr. Chair and Representative Bernardy, so the University of Minnesota has, you said 33 million of reallocation. I don't know what that means. But have they actually found some cuts? I know they've been actively building buildings over there. And I know that was part of discussion last biennium during the capital investment discussion, using some of their resources to build buildings. I'm wondering if we are giving them all of this additional taxpayer money, are they using their own resources to build buildings? Or what's going on over there?
These resources are not to build, Mr. Chair, these resources are not to build buildings. If the University of Minnesota would like to come down, they're welcome to. But this budget is not meant, it's not to build buildings, and it's not used for that.
The capital investment building, or bill was reported out of that division this morning, and we'll be having that up in the future, and maybe you want to talk about funding the building, Representative Drazkowski at that point.
Yeah, my question, Mr. Chair, would be, can you tell us, are you using any internal monies to build buildings over there on any of the U of M campuses at this time that would be or would not, or would be within or included as part of a capital investment effort here at the legislature, or not, or outside of it as well?
Burnett?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, we do use our own sources for, it depends on the type of building you're talking about. If it's a residence life or a dormitory, there's no state money in that, and that's all the university either borrowing or cash balances to build buildings like that. This state has had a history of partnering with the university and with the Minnesota state system on capital projects where the state provides 2/3 of the project, and we provide 1/3 either through donations or through our own resources. And that's going on now as we build the new Health Sciences Education Center that the state has funded, and it's under construction as we speak. We just finished a building in Duluth, the chemistry building, excuse me. That building has just been opened, and that was a 2/3 state, 1/3 university coming up with it. So there's a variety of ways that we fund our capital program, but this bill in front of you today is around, as Representative Bernardy said, is around the operations and maintenance budget, essentially how we pay our employees and how we fund the university's ongoing operations.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if the U of M could provide for us a list of all of their building projects for each of the last 5 years, and maybe what's planned for the next 4 years as well, and where the monies either came from or are coming from, and what the split would have been between the U of M and the state taxpayers outside of the U of M through this place here. Could that be provided to the committee?
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir, we can provide that for you.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You've given them a lot of homework. Representative
apologize.
Scott, oh, you're off.
Actually, I do have it.
Oh, you want to be on it?
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm not sure, I heard the answer to Representative Drazkowski's question as to what the two different systems, the U and Minnesota State, are doing. And I'm not on higher ed. I've never been on higher ed. I don't understand exactly how this works. But, you know, we have these tuition freezes and the state pays for it. What skin in the game do the two university systems have in freezing tuition? What do they do to buckle down?
Okay.
Representative Bernardy.
Yeah,
I think
thank you. The university is,
Getting your lifelines back.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, they're coming back. Here they are.
Maybe they can just hang closer until we vote the bill out.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, so the university in putting its budget together when we worked with Chair Bernardy is planning over the biennium, as she noted, over $30 million in internal reallocations or reductions to programs to help fund utility increases, pay raises for employees, pay raises for our faculty, and all the changes in operating costs that come. Tuition is a very big piece of how we fund the university. It's a big piece of how we fund Minnesota State. So for a little bit of clarification, of the $114 million, what we had proposed in our budget request from the regents was an $87 million biennial increase, with a 2% tuition increase on top of that. Well, that equals around 27 million. So you put the two numbers together, we would not do a 2% resident tuition increase to help fund the needed costs over the biennium of the university. And so that's how you get to the tuition freeze number, and that's how you get to what we're putting in to also reduce the demand for state tax dollars or student tuition dollars to fund the budget over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could have a follow-up question for that gentleman first.
Okay.
And so the 87 million that you mentioned, is that over base?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is over the base. It's a base increase.
Okay, okay, thank you. The Minsky, or, I'm sorry, Minnesota State could answer.
Minnesota State, yeah. I understand. I often say
It just,
Minsky.
Minsky rolls off the tongue, I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. In the case of Minnesota State, our budget request assumed, as part of our regular budget management, 35 million in annual reallocations. As we reported to the Higher Education Committee recently, just over the last 4 years, we've reallocated about $145 million. We do that just as a matter of good management as we're putting budgets together. We do that through closing programs, through eliminating positions. Our head count is down about 10% just in the last 4 or 5 years. We, as of fiscal 17 data, I believe, are 41st in the country in administrative spending, and we have run a very tight administrative program in order to protect the investments in the classroom. And we do that through reallocations.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so the 145 million, right, reallocation, can you expound on that a little bit more? What's?
Certainly. All of our college and university budgets are managed by local budget processes. The presidents have strategic authority to establish programs and areas of student services. And in doing that, they identify programs that demand has fallen off on, and they close those programs. And we call that a reallocation. They might take the funds associated with that program and use them to start a new program, or they might take them as part of a budget reduction exercise.
Thank you.
And Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just after having lengthy discussion, I just going back to what this tuition freeze in terms of the dollar amount means. When I sent out my first legislative survey, I was surprised. I knew student debt was a big issue in my district, but I was surprised at how many couples were moving into my district and buying their first home, but weren't having kids. And the thing they were saying that has so much impact was their student debt. And thinking about how that impacts our public school enrollment, how it impacts our workforce. And so just reminding folks when we talk about these tuition freezes, what this means for not just state dollars, but what impact it has on the people that we serve, and how big of our systems play into all of the elements of what we talk about with our state budget, and this is a big piece of that. So I just wanted to remind folks about that, and also say, go UMD Bulldogs.
And I think I'll recognize Representative Garofalo, and we have an ambitious agenda today, so I think we'll take the vote after, I assume, being that we've kind of set the tone in previous meetings, that you'll do your conclusion from your side of the aisle. Is that where we're at?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And earlier, my respected colleague, Representative Pelowski, laid out 2 different ways to do things, and I certainly appreciate when people present a binary choice to me of one way or another. But there is a third way, of course, Representative Pelowski and others, and that is that the efficiencies, the financial incentives for efficiencies that exist in the private sector are somehow imported or exported into the public sector. They simply just don't exist right now. The reality is that productivity gains, productivity enhancements are primarily driven by system redesign, by automation, by self-improvement, self-instruction, educational redesign. These are all big picture items that get away from this quaint notion that for students to learn, they have to be in the same physical building as someone else they're learning from, and they have to learn at the exact same pace and scope as other people. Differentiated learning on an individual basis is the great equalizer with internet and broadband, with internet and remote learning. And so for the large part, our institutions in Minnesota, their primary expense, their number one cost is paying salary and benefits for adults. That's what they do. And that is very difficult to bring automation and efficiencies into those systems and reduce those counts because of the constituency groups involved. That's just a reality of the situation. It's why right now in the state of Minnesota, we have more students majoring in journalism than there are journalism jobs in the state of Minnesota. That's how we end up with that disconnect about what's happening and what students are being served for what purposes. And so going forward, as this is the same thing, it's a bigger conversation than what budget targets are. Going forward, it's the same thing with healthcare, it's the same thing with other items. Government needs to be providing better services at a lower cost. And that lower cost doesn't come from transfers or moving money from one pocket to another. It comes from delivering true efficiencies with better technology deployment and fewer employees working in the areas. That's, to quote a famous journalist, that's reality check. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Pelowski, you ended up putting.
Well,
your hand
Mr.
up.
Chair, I just wanted to respond since he was addressing me, and I couldn't agree more with Representative Garofalo because in 2013, when we froze tuition, there were items in the bill that were signed into law by Governor Dayton that included the following. We eliminated all bonuses for administrators in the Min-State system because they are the highest paid administrators. And up to then, they were making such wonderful decisions as we can raise tuition. We can raise tuition. Well, we can raise tuition. We also had language in the bill that said before you cut faculty and program, you cut administration. Again, something agreeable to Governor Dayton. So I'm in full agreement with you. I think when we're having these bills, particularly when we're freezing tuition, there should be a corollary involved in this, that there is something stated that there has to be a revision or a reallotment of resources in some areas which no longer would be needed if we are putting resources to the students and we are saying we're freezing tuition. But I'm going to emphasize again this debt issue. This debt issue is the biggest issue since Wall Street, since the banks, since the automotive, and since real estate fell. This is the next one. And if we don't address it somehow, we're going to be in deep trouble. So I'm in agreement with you, Representative Garofalo.
Even though we had the concluding comments, I guess, Representative Drazkowski, can you be brief?
Yeah, I'm going to speak on behalf of the Newhouse Republican Caucus, Mr. Chair. So I'm just wondering, I'd like to add to my list, if I could, to our two university reps. Can we get on that table also the number of faculty FTEs for each of the last 10 years, and then projections for each of the next 4 too, which certainly should include those reallocations that you mentioned to us if those indeed resulted in faculty changes. Can those be included as well? And then also, could we get them by the middle next week? Is that too ambitious?
That's fine.
Yes, sir.
They're shaking their head, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, Representative Bernardy, would you like to renew your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to renew my motion that House File 2544, as amended, be recommended to be placed on the general register.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried. We put out notice, and I announced again at the beginning of the meeting that we would take a short, probably 30-minute recess. The DFL members will be meeting in room 400 North. Representative Garofalo,
272.
272. Okay, with that, we are in recess.